That restlessness you feel isn't weakness. That unease when something feels misaligned isn't confusion. It's your authentic self screaming beneath layers of expectations, begging you to remember who you really are before it's too late. When was the last time you made a decision purely for yourself? Not for your family, not for society, not for the image you're trying to maintain, but for the person you are when nobody's watching? Most people can't remember because they've spent so long performing for others that they've forgotten there's a real person underneath the performance. Ibn Arabi spent his life observing how people lose themselves in the expectations of others. He watched as individuals would mold themselves to fit families, careers, relationships, social circles, slowly erasing their authentic desires until nothing genuine remained. They would wake up one day, decades into their lives, and realize they had been living someone else's story while their own remained unwritten. The world is designed to shape you into what it needs, not what you need. From childhood, you're taught to conform, to fit in, to meet expectations. Your parents have dreams for you. Society has roles for you. Your culture has scripts for you to follow. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to forget what you actually want, who you actually are, what actually matters to you. This forgetting creates a particular kind of suffering. It's not the dramatic suffering of crisis or trauma. It's the quiet suffering of living a life that doesn't fit, of pursuing goals that aren't yours, of maintaining relationships that drain you, of performing a version of success that leaves you feeling empty. Ibn Arabi called this the betrayal of the self. Not because you're intentionally harming yourself, but because you're abandoning your authentic nature for the comfort of approval, the safety of conformity, the ease of not standing out. Every time you silence your inner voice to satisfy external demands, you betray the person you were meant to become. That unease you feel, that restlessness that won't fade, isn't a problem to be solved with more achievements or better circumstances. It's your authentic self trying to get your attention, trying to remind you that you're living out of alignment with your true nature. Think about your recent choices. How many were made because they felt right to you? And how many were made because you feared judgment, rejection, or disappointing someone? Fear is the primary force that keeps people trapped in inauthentic lives. Ibn Arabi observed that when people's choices aren't rooted in their authentic truth, they experience chaos and emptiness, no matter how successful they appear externally. He compared it to searching for water while standing on a spring. The further you move from your genuine self, the more lost you become. But here's something crucial. Choosing yourself doesn't mean becoming selfish or abandoning responsibilities. It means recognizing that you can't genuinely serve others when you're running on empty, when your spirit is crushed, when you've sacrificed everything that makes you uniquely you. When you prioritize your authentic well-being, your entire energy shifts. You begin attracting people and opportunities that match your genuine nature rather than your performed persona. Ibn Arabi explained this as a law of correspondence. What's alike seeks the like. Live authentically, and authenticity will find you. Before reaching this state of authentic living, you must confront what you've been avoiding, your shadow. The parts of yourself you've hidden, denied, or suppressed because they didn't fit the acceptable image. The desires you've buried, the opinions you've silenced, the dreams you've abandoned. Ibn Arabi taught that what you flee from within yourself becomes your master, and what you face and integrate becomes your servant. Running from your shadow doesn't make it disappear. It just means you're being controlled by forces you refuse to acknowledge. Facing your shadow requires brutal honesty. It means admitting the ways you've compromised yourself. The times you said yes when everything in you screamed no. The relationships you've maintained out of obligation rather than genuine connection. This confrontation isn't easy, but it's where real transformation begins. Out of this confrontation comes clarity. The illusions that kept you trapped start to fade. your actual purpose begins to emerge. And a deep calm takes root, a peace so profound that external circumstances can't shake it. When your life is anchored in truth, no storm outside can disturb your core. You gain the courage to say no to what doesn't belong in your life. Not from arrogance, but from self-respect. You begin living without fear of judgment because you recognize that the only opinion that ultimately matters is your own assessment of whether you're being true to yourself. This journey doesn't begin with grand gestures. It starts with listening. Every time you feel uneasy, confused, heavy, or sorrowful, pause and ask yourself what your authentic self is trying to communicate. These feelings aren't random. They're signals about alignment or misalignment with your true nature. Ibn Arabi wrote that every state you experience carries information. Don't rush past discomfort. Interpret it, because it's showing you something important about your current path. Yet listening isn't easy because your intuition often points toward uncomfortable changes. Ignoring these inner signals isn't strength. It's denial. Choosing yourself means having the courage to release what no longer serves your authentic growth, even when letting go feels terrifying. We cling to the familiar because change frightens us. But Ibn Arabi reminds us that what we call endings are simply doorways. Behind every ending waits the birth of a more authentic version of yourself. So ask yourself, what are you still holding on to that has already died in your hands? Society whispers that prioritizing yourself is wrong, that boundaries are arrogance, that saying no is cruelty. But living authentically requires understanding that you can't illuminate others when your own light has gone out. When you finally honor your authentic self, clarity emerges. Ibn Arabi called this the reflection of inner alignment. When your inner world is ordered, the external world mirrors that order. When you align with your truth, your environment reorganizes itself to match. This isn't magic. It's the natural consequence of living in integrity rather than contradiction. But this path demands radical honesty. Choosing yourself isn't only about bold choices and firm boundaries. It's also about facing uncomfortable truths you've buried. Perhaps you've compromised your dignity repeatedly. Perhaps you've allowed violations of your boundaries out of fear. Ibn Arabi warned that what you conceal within yourself shapes your life more powerfully than what you reveal. Don't fall into self-judgment when you uncover these truths. Each mistake is an invitation to recalibrate, to realign, to return to yourself. Authenticity isn't a single achievement. It's a lifelong practice. Your authentic self is always evolving. Ibn Arabi taught that you're not one fixed being. You're a traveler between states, and every moment offers a new opportunity for creation. When you choose yourself, not everyone will understand. Some will criticize because you no longer fit their image of you. Some will withdraw because they preferred the version that served their needs. This brings pain, but Ibn Arabi taught that seeking universal approval means losing yourself completely. Choosing yourself means releasing your worth from others' opinions. Your value isn't defined by external praise or rejection, but by the integrity you maintain within. This purifies your connections. You stop chasing approval and start seeking genuine understanding. Here's a secret. The right people remain not out of obligation, but because they recognize and value your authentic nature. As you live with integrity, your external world begins reflecting your internal harmony. Ibn Arabi observed that the world you experience is always a reflection of the world you build inside yourself. This transformation isn't instant. It unfolds gradually. There will be days when you feel you're moving backward, when your old patterns call you back. That's the test. Remaining faithful to yourself, even when the path feels lonely. We live in a culture that glorifies self-sacrifice even at the expense of your well-being. But Ibn Arabi warned against this imbalance. Giving while neglecting your authentic needs isn't noble. It's unsustainable. Choosing yourself means filling your own reservoir so that when you give from abundance. Take a moment to reflect on your relationships. Which ones elevate your spirit? Which ones drain you? Ibn Arabi wrote that every companion is a mirror. The people closest to you reveal what you believe about yourself and what you allow into your life. When others repeatedly violate your boundaries, the deeper issue isn't only with them. It's that some part of you hasn't yet learned to protect what matters most. Setting boundaries isn't selfishness. It's self-respect. Ibn Arabi reminded his students that every discomfort you don't acknowledge grows into a barrier. Address it while it's small. Choosing yourself means establishing boundaries as pathways to clarity, pathways that lead to healthier relationships. Every no you speak to what harms you is simultaneously a yes to your truth. As you live with greater authenticity, your intuition grows stronger. That voice, which was once faint, becomes clear. You begin sensing not only what seems logical, but what feels true in your depths. Ibn Arabi called this inner knowing a form of insight, planted in the hearts of those who live sincerely. But to hear this guidance clearly, you must quiet the external noise. Release your obsession with approval. Detach from the weight of others' expectations. Authentic guidance speaks in stillness. When you trust yourself, you're trusting something deeper than ego or fear. The moment you choose to honor your authentic nature, you send a powerful signal to yourself and to the world. You're declaring readiness to live in the alignment you were designed for. And your circumstances respond because the external world is always a mirror of the internal. This doesn't mean life suddenly becomes easy. Challenges will come, but they will no longer feel like endless burdens. Instead, they become stepping stones. Each trial becomes a mirror reflecting your growth, each hardship an invitation to rise higher. When you reach this place, you taste a peace deeper than circumstance, the peace of knowing you're standing exactly where you're meant to stand. Ibn Arabi wrote that the person who aligns with their authentic nature finds reality aligning all things for them. But beware, this alignment doesn't free you from obstacles. In fact, some of the greatest tests appear precisely when you dare to choose yourself. Because every step toward truth challenges the illusions you once lived in. When you begin choosing yourself, the world will resist. People will pull at you. Expectations will press down, but this resistance is not proof of error. It's proof of birth. The old must tremble when the new begins to rise. Every time you reaffirm your choice to honor your inner peace over external demands, you strengthen your bond with your authentic self. As your values become clear, decisions align more easily. The world responds. People and circumstances attune themselves to your energy, and you attract true companions, those who love you for who you are, not who you pretended to be. When you reach this state, something within shifts forever. Life stops feeling like a battlefield. The choices that once overwhelmed you now flow with clarity. And peace no longer depends on circumstances. It flows from the center of your being. This inner peace is born when you honor your needs, respect your limits, and align your life with your authentic values. And this peace is not yours alone. When you live authentically, you become a beacon for others. Your courage gives permission for their courage. Imagine releasing everything that weighs you down. The relationships that drain you, the duties that suffocate you, the expectations that were never truly yours. This is not fantasy. It's a possibility waiting inside you. All it asks is one act of bravery. To choose yourself. Ibn Arabi would say that true transformation begins not when you collect more from the world, but when you turn inward and discover the treasure that was always with you. Liberation comes the moment you choose authenticity. When you stop living as the world trained you and begin living as you were meant to be. This freedom demands courage. The greatest battle is not outside, but within. Every time you act despite fear, every time you step forward rather than retreat, you break one more chain. This is the power of choosing yourself, breaking invisible chains and walking freely into the life you are meant to live. When you stand in your truth, nothing external can uproot you. This authenticity transforms more than your own life. It radiates outward. You become a living reminder that sincere living is possible. Your very presence becomes an invitation without words. The greatest gift you can offer yourself is to live unapologetically. Not the version crafted for approval, but the self you were created to be. Ibn Arabi wrote that your essence is your responsibility. Guard it, for one day you will be asked, did you keep it, or did you trade it away? This is your call to action. Life is too short to bow endlessly before others' expectations. The time to confront fear and step into light is not tomorrow. It is now. The whispers of the soul are subtle, and if ignored, they fade. To choose yourself today is to transform your life. Which parts of your life align with your true essence? What must you release to live more authentically? What chains are holding you back? Even the smallest choice in favor of your authentic self is a victory. And know this, you are never walking alone. The greatest power lies not in conquering others, but in the simple, courageous act of being who you were meant to be. To choose your true self is to honor yourself. So let this reflection spread. You are not alone in this journey. Each person who chooses authenticity lights the way for others. Ibn Arabi wrote that when one heart awakens, the world shifts with it. Your choice is not small. It's a seed of transformation that ripples outward. Change begins with you. Life begins the moment you decide to choose yourself, to choose truth, to choose authenticity.